Commander Velthora stood in the docking bay of Space Station Harmony 7 and watched the human ship arrive. The ship looked strange to Velthora's eyes. It had round edges and viewing windows along the sides. Quilarian ships were built for war, with sharp angles and heavy armor. This human vessel looked soft, almost decorative. Velthora's antenna twitched with mild annoyance. The Quilarians were the finest warriors in the Galactic Coalition. Everyone knew this. For 300 years, Quilarian forces had defended Coalition space with perfect efficiency. And now Command wanted Velthora to work with humans, these newcomers who had only joined the Coalition 5 years ago. The airlock opened and the human crew walked out. Their leader was a man named Captain Daehyun. He was tall and moved with quiet steps. His dark eyes studied everything, but his face showed no emotion. He wore a simple gray uniform with minimal decorations. "Commander Velthora," Daehyun said, extending his hand. "Thank you for agreeing to this joint operation." Velthora touched the offered hand briefly. Humans liked physical contact for greetings. Strange habit. "Captain, my crew is prepared to depart." Behind Daehyun came 3 more humans. A woman with bright eyes introduced herself as Lieutenant Hana. She smiled too much. Smiling during a military briefing seemed unprofessional to Velthora. Then came Ensign Taejun, a young pilot who looked barely old enough for service. Finally, Corporal Bora, a medic who carried an enormous medical kit. "That is a very large medical supply," Velthora observed. Bora smiled. "We like to be prepared. You never know who might need help." Velthora found this excessive. Quilarian ships carried exactly the medical supplies needed, based on crew size and mission duration. No more, no less. Efficiency was everything. The briefing room was functional and clean. Velthora pulled up the mission details on the main display. "We will escort science vessel Discovery 9 through the disputed margins. The journey takes 6 days. Intelligence suggests Vraxian activity in that sector is minimal." Daehyun studied the star map. "The Vraxians. We fought them during our first contact with the Coalition. Yes, they are aggressive but predictable. Standard defensive formations work well against them." Velthora highlighted their route. "We will have 5 escort ships. 2 Quilarian, 2 human, and 1 Tentari cruiser." Hana leaned forward. "What's on the science vessel that needs this much protection?" "Research equipment, scientists, 16 families." Velthora dismissed the question. "Standard evacuation from a forward research station. Nothing unusual." Taejun pulled out a small device and started playing soft music through a tiny speaker. He noticed Velthora staring. "Sorry, helps me think." He put it away but seemed uncomfortable without it. Velthora continued the briefing but felt increasingly puzzled by these humans. They asked emotional questions. They carried personal items. They smiled and joked with each other even during serious discussions. Daehyun remained mostly silent, but the others talked constantly. After the briefing, Velthora toured the human ship. Captain Daehyun showed the commander around personally. The ship had a recreation room, an actual room dedicated to relaxation and entertainment. There were pictures on walls, plants growing in small gardens, a kitchen where crew could cook their own meals instead of eating standard nutrition bars. "This seems inefficient," Velthora said carefully, trying not to insult their hosts. Daehyun touched one of the plants, a small flower with red petals. "Efficiency isn't everything, Commander. Our people need reasons to keep going, reminders of home, things worth fighting for." Velthora did not understand. Quilarians fought because it was their purpose. They needed no other reason. The hive mind gave them clarity and unity. These humans seemed scattered, each one focused on different small things. They passed crew quarters. Each human had personal space filled with photographs, books, and small objects. One room had children's drawings taped to the wall. Another had musical instruments. The waste of space bothered Velthora deeply. "Your crew brings many personal items," Velthora observed. "We're allowed 3 kilograms of personal effects," Daehyun explained. "Most bring pictures of family, letters, things that remind them who they are when they're far from home. But you are soldiers. Your identity is your service." Daehyun stopped walking and looked directly at Velthora. "We're soldiers second, Commander. We're people first. Sons, daughters, parents, friends. We carry these things because we need to remember what we're protecting." The conversation made Velthora uncomfortable. Quilarian soldiers were connected through the hive mind. They always knew their purpose. They never felt alone or confused about their identity. These humans seemed so isolated, each one separate and vulnerable. That evening, Velthora declined an invitation to eat with the human crew. Quilarians ate nutrition supplements on a strict schedule, but curiosity eventually pulled the commander to observe the human mess hall through a doorway. The humans sat together around a large table. They shared food from common dishes. Hana told a story that made everyone laugh. Taejun showed pictures of a woman and small child on his communication device. "My daughter just turned 4, he said proudly. Bora talked about her brother who worked as a teacher on Earth. They touched each other often. Hands on shoulders. Friendly pushes. They smiled constantly. Their voices rose and fell with emotion. It seemed chaotic and unprofessional. But there was something else Velthora noticed. They cared for each other. When one human looked sad, others immediately tried to help. When someone needed something, others provided it without being asked. They were not connected by a hive mind, yet they still formed a unity of sorts. Captain Daehyun noticed Velthora watching. He waved the commander over. Velthora hesitated, then joined them at the table. "We're just sharing stories," Hana said. "Want to tell us about your family, Commander?" "Quilarians do not have families in the way you understand. We are born into the hive collective. We serve the collective." The humans looked at each other with expressions Velthora could not read. Finally, Daehyun spoke. "That must be very efficient. But doesn't it get lonely?" Lonely? Velthora had never considered this. Quilarians were always connected to thousands of other minds through the hive link. How could they be lonely? Yet something about the question disturbed Velthora in a way the commander could not explain. The next morning, the convoy departed. 5 escort ships surrounded the large science vessel. Velthora commanded the Quilarian destroyer from the bridge. Everything was organized perfectly. Sensors showed clear space ahead. The journey would be routine. Velthora watched the human ships on the displays. They flew in loose formation, not the tight, efficient pattern Quilarians preferred. Their communications were casual, almost playful. Taejun made jokes over the command channel. Hana hummed while running sensor checks. 3 days passed without incident. Velthora began to relax slightly. Perhaps this mission would be simple after all. The humans were strange and inefficient, but they seemed competent enough at basic operations. On the morning of the 4th day, everything changed. Sensors suddenly filled with warnings. Ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around them. Velthora's antenna straightened in alarm as the display showed enemy contacts. 20 warships, all Vraxian design, all heavily armed, all ships. "This is Commander Velthora. We are under attack. Prepare for combat." The command channel filled with acknowledgments, but Velthora's mind was already calculating. 20 enemy ships against 5 escorts. These odds were impossible. Coalition doctrine was clear. When outnumbered 4-1, retreat was the only logical choice. "Science vessel, begin emergency jump preparation," Velthora ordered. "Escort ships, defensive formation Delta. We retreat in 10 minutes. The Tenteri cruiser immediately began pulling back. The other Quilarian ship moved into retreat position. But the human ships did not move. Captain Daehyun's voice came through the channel, calm and quiet. "Negative, Commander. We're holding position." Velthora could not believe what was being heard. "Captain, we are outnumbered 4-1. Retreat is necessary. The science vessel needs 10 minutes to charge its jump drive," Daehyun said. His voice remained completely steady. "We're going to give it those 10 minutes. That is suicide. We cannot win this fight." There was a pause. When Daehyun spoke again, his voice carried something Velthora had not heard before, something hard and final. "We didn't survive the unification wars by running, Commander. We'll hold the line. You can stay with us or you can retreat. Your choice." Velthora looked at the tactical display. The Vraxian ships were forming attack patterns. In minutes, they would open fire. The logical choice was clear. Retreat, save the crew. Live to fight another day. But Velthora thought about the human mess hall. The pictures on walls. Taejun's daughter who just turned 4. The flower in Captain Daehyun's ship. Things worth fighting for. "All crew, prepare for combat," Velthora announced. "We hold position with our human allies." On the display, the Vraxian fleet began its attack run, and Velthora felt something completely new and terrifying. The commander felt fear. The Vraxian ships came at them like a dark wave. Their vessels were ugly things, built from scavenged metal and stolen technology. But they had numbers. 20 ships against 5. Against 3, really, since the Tentari cruiser and the other Quilarian destroyer were already jumping away to safety. Velthora watched them go and felt a strange emotion. Was it anger, shame? The hive mind usually filtered such feelings away. But now disconnected from the main collective this far from Quilarian space, Velthora felt these emotions raw and strong. Science vessel reports 8 minutes until jump ready. Hana's voice came through the channel. She still sounded cheerful. How could she sound cheerful? Acknowledged, Velthora responded. All ships, defensive formation. Focus fire on lead vessels. Negative, Commander, Daehyun said. We're breaking formation. Each human ship will engage independently. Velthora's antenna twitched violently. That violates all tactical doctrine. We must coordinate our defense. Trust us, was all Daehyun said. Then the human ships moved and Velthora saw something impossible. They did not form a defensive line. They did not create overlapping fields of fire. Instead, they scattered in 3 different directions, flying in patterns that made no strategic sense. The Vraxian fleet opened fire. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles launched in deadly swarms. Velthora's ship shuddered as impacts hit the shields. The commander gripped the command chair and watched the tactical display with growing horror. But the human ships were not where the Vraxians aimed. They moved in ways that should not be possible. Taejun's fighter pulled a turn so sharp that the G-forces should have killed him. The ship twisted and dove, avoiding 3 missiles by margins too small to measure. How is he surviving those maneuvers? Velthora's tactical officer asked, his voice filled with shock. Humans built reinforced pilot chambers, Velthora realized, accessing the technical specifications. They can survive up to 15 G-forces for short periods. That would kill most species. Yes, it would. Velthora watched as Hana's ship flew directly at a Vraxian cruiser. The enemy ship fired everything it had, but Hana's vessel rolled and spun, somehow avoiding the fire. Then at the last moment before collision, she released a full spread of missiles and pulled up. The missiles hit the Vraxian ship at point-blank range. Its shields collapsed and explosions tore through its hull. 1 enemy ship disabled, Hana reported. Her voice was still calm, still pleasant. Moving to next target. Daehyun's ship fought differently. He moved slowly, deliberately, like he was not in a hurry, but Velthora noticed the pattern. He positioned himself to draw fire away from the science vessel. Enemy ships focused on him, and he dodged just enough to avoid fatal hits while absorbing damage on his shields. He was using his ship as bait, as a shield, deliberately taking fire to protect others. Captain, your shields are at 40%, Velthora warned. I know, Daehyun said simply. The Vraxians were getting frustrated. Their numerical advantage was not working as it should. The human ships were too fast, too unpredictable, and they fought in ways that no military academy taught. Velthora saw 1 human ship lose its primary weapons. Instead of retreating, the pilot flew close to a destroyed piece of debris and used tractor beams to grab it. Then the pilot accelerated and threw the debris at a Vraxian vessel like a massive projectile. The debris hit with devastating force. They were weaponizing everything. Nothing was just a tool. Everything became a weapon when needed. Science vessel reports 5 minutes to jump, Hana said, but now her voice had tension in it. We've got a problem. 6 enemy ships are breaking off to attack the science vessel directly. Velthora calculated quickly. The science vessel had minimal weapons. It would be destroyed in less than a minute if those ships reached it. All ships intercept course. We must stop them. Already on it, Taejun said. His fighter screamed across space, accelerating at speeds that made Velthora's sensors show error warnings. He could not possibly reach the enemy ships in time, but he was not trying to reach them. He was firing every weapon he had, forcing the Vraxian ships to take evasive action, slowing them down. Buying seconds. Daehyun's ship moved to intercept as well. So did Hana's. All 3 human vessels converged on the enemy formation, but they were still outnumbered 6-3. And Velthora's ship was too far away to help in time. The commander watched helplessly as the battle unfolded. The humans fought with terrifying skill, but skill could not overcome such odds. Taejun's fighter took a direct hit. His shields collapsed. Atmosphere vented from a hull breach. Taejun, retreat, Daehyun ordered. Get to safety. Negative, Captain. Taejun's voice was rough but steady. Still got missiles. Still got fight. His damaged fighter continued attacking. He was not retreating. Even with his ship dying around him, he was not retreating. Velthora felt something cold spread through the commander's body. The humans were not going to run. They were going to fight until they died. All of them. And they were doing it to save 400 people they had never met. People of different species. People who were strangers. The commander's hands moved across the controls. All power to engines. Emergency acceleration. Commander, that will leave us defenseless, the tactical officer warned. Do it. Now. Velthora's ship leaped forward, shields dropping as all energy fed into the drives. The ship crossed the distance faster than Calarian safety protocols allowed. And Velthora opened fire on the Vraxian formation from behind, breaking their attack pattern. Good timing, Commander, Daehyun said. Was that approval in his voice? Together, the 4 ships fought the 6 Vraxian vessels. It was chaos. There was no formation, no organized strategy. Each captain simply fought to protect the science vessel and each other. When one ship was in trouble, another would move to help without needing orders. Velthora began to understand. The humans did not fight like Calarians with hive mind coordination. They fought with something else, something based on trust. Each captain knew the others would help. Each pilot knew they were not alone. Taijun's fighter suddenly broke from the battle. At first, Velthora thought he was finally retreating. But no, he was accelerating directly at the largest Vraxian ship, the one coordinating the enemy attack. Taejun, what are you doing? Hana's voice was sharp with fear. My fighter's dead anyway, Taejun said. Velthora heard strange sounds in the background. Was he singing? Might as well make it count. Tell my daughter I love her. Tell her daddy made it count. Taejun, no. Daehyun's voice cracked with emotion. But Taejun did not stop. His broken fighter crashed into the Vraxian command ship at full speed. The explosion was massive. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire and debris. The command channel went silent. Even the Vraxians seemed to pause in shock. One pilot had just destroyed a ship 50 times larger than his fighter. By crashing into it. By choosing to die to take an enemy with him. Velthora's mind could not process it. This was not tactical. This was not logical. This was madness. This was suicide. This was what humans were. Science vessel jump ready in 90 seconds, Hana said. Her voice was tight, barely controlled. We need to hold for 90 more seconds. The remaining Vraxian ships, shocked by Taejun's sacrifice, began regrouping. They were angry now. Velthora could see it in their movements. They stopped trying to reach the science vessel. They started trying to kill the defenders. Energy fire filled the space around them. Velthora's ship took hit after hit. Shields collapsed. Hull breaches appeared. Damage reports flooded the bridge. The Quilarian crew worked with desperate efficiency, but it was not enough. Hull breach on deck 3, someone shouted. We're venting atmosphere. Alarm screamed throughout the ship. Velthora tried to pull back, but the ship was too damaged. Engines were failing. Weapons were offline. The bridge itself shuddered as something exploded nearby. Then Daehyun's ship appeared beside them. It was heavily damaged too, trailing atmosphere and debris, but it positioned itself between Velthora's destroyer and the attacking Vraxian vessels, taking the hits meant for them. Captain, you are too damaged, Velthora said. Save yourself. Not our way, Commander, Daehyun replied. Science vessel jumps in 30 seconds. We hold for 30 more seconds. Velthora watched this human captain sacrifice his ship to protect Calarians. Watched Hana's vessel, also damaged, continue fighting with weapons that should have failed. Watched as Bora's voice came through the channel, calling for any ships with wounded to transmit their positions. She was preparing to help with medical care. In the middle of a battle. While being shot at, these humans were insane. They were illogical. They ignored all proper military doctrine. They carried too many medical supplies and personal items. They wasted space on flower gardens and recreation rooms. And they were the most terrifying warriors Velthora had ever seen. Science vessel jumping, Hana shouted. On the display, the large science vessel disappeared in a flash of light. 400 souls escaped to safety. The mission was successful. All remaining ships jump on random vectors, Daehyun ordered. Get out of here. Velthora's damaged ship managed to open a jump portal. The Quilarian destroyer fell through it into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Daehyun's ship and Hana's ship also jumped away. Velthora's ship limped through space like a wounded animal. The jump had carried them to safety, but barely. Every system showed damage. Hull breaches on 7 decks, life support failing in 3 sections, engines running at 20% capacity. The Quilarian crew worked in their efficient way, making repairs without speaking. They did not need to speak. Their thoughts connected through the local hive mind, coordinating perfectly. But Velthora felt disconnected from them. The commander's mind was elsewhere, replaying the battle over and over. A communication signal broke through. It was from Daehyun's ship. "Commander Velthora, what is your status?" "We are damaged but functional. Casualties minimal." "Your status?" There was a pause. "We lost 40% of our crew. Life support is critical. Requesting permission to dock with your vessel." Velthora immediately agreed. Within the hour, a docking tube connected the 2 ships. But what Velthora saw shocked the commander. Daehyun's ship was not just damaged. It was dying. Whole sections were open to space. Emergency lights flickered, and bodies floated in the corridors secured with magnetic locks until they could be properly recovered. Daehyun came through the airlock. His uniform was torn and burned. Blood dried on his face from a cut above his eye. Behind him came the surviving crew. Many were injured. Bora moved among them, treating wounds even as she walked. "Your ship is destroyed," Velthora said. "She'll hold together long enough to get us home." Daehyun replied. But his voice was heavy with grief. "We need medical supplies, and space for our wounded." "Of course." Velthora gestured and Quilarian medical staff moved forward. They were not as skilled as Bora, but they could help stabilize the injured humans. Hana's ship arrived a few hours later. It was in better condition but still heavily damaged. Her crew came aboard as well. Soon Velthora's ship held over 200 beings, mixed human and Quilarian. The commander found them gathered in the largest cargo bay that still had atmosphere. The humans sat together in small groups. Some treated each other's wounds. Others just held each other. Many were crying. This confused Velthora. They had won. The mission succeeded. The science vessel escaped. Why were they crying? Bora saw Velthora watching and approached. Her eyes were red, but her hands were steady. "Commander, thank you for the medical supplies." "It is logical to help allies," Velthora said, then hesitated. "Your people are upset. Did we not achieve victory?" Bora looked back at the gathered humans. "We won the battle, but we lost people we loved. Taejun, 15 others who didn't make it. We're mourning them. But mourning reduces combat effectiveness. Why not suppress these emotions? Can you do that? Just turn off your feelings?" Velthora considered. The hive mind helps filter negative emotions. We still feel them, but they are diluted, shared across many minds until they become bearable. "We don't have that," Bora said softly. "We feel everything individually, every loss, every pain. So we help each other bear it. We remember together." As if to demonstrate, Hana stood up in the center of the group. She held up a small photograph. "This is Taejun with his daughter, Mei Lin. He showed it to me the day before the battle. He was so proud of her. He said she wanted to be a pilot like her daddy." Other humans began sharing stories. Someone remembered how Taejun always sang old Earth songs during long patrols. Another recalled his terrible jokes. A pilot talked about how Taejun once risked his life to save her ship during training exercises. They were not just sad, they were celebrating him, remembering who he was, making sure he was not forgotten. Velthora watched this strange ritual with growing understanding. The humans did not see their fallen as mere casualties. Each loss was personal. Each death mattered individually. Captain Daehyun sat slightly apart from the others. He stared at nothing, his face showing deep exhaustion. Velthora approached and sat beside him. "You fought well, Captain." "We lost 17 people," Daehyun said. "That's not fighting well. We were outnumbered 4-1. By Quilarian calculations, we should have all died. Yet we survived and completed the mission. That is extraordinary." Dae-hyun turned to look at Velthora. His eyes held something the commander had not seen before. Deep, ancient pain. Do you know what the Unification Wars were, Commander? Your species fought among yourselves, then unified to join the coalition. That's the simple version. Dae-hyun looked away again. The truth is uglier. We almost destroyed ourselves completely. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, orbital bombardment. We killed billions. Entire cities turned to ash. Whole nations ceased to exist. Velthora's antenna straightened in shock. Billions? Earth's population dropped from 10 billion to 3 billion in 5 years. My grandparents lived through it. They told me stories about hiding in bunkers while the world burned, about eating whatever they could find, about watching children starve. The captain's voice was flat, emotionless, but Velthora could sense the pain beneath. We learned something in those wars. We learned that survival means nothing if you have nothing to survive for. So when we finally stopped fighting each other, we made a promise. Never again. We would never let another species suffer what we suffered. That is why you stayed, Velthora said slowly. Why you fought impossible odds, because you remember extinction. We remember, and we refuse to let it happen to anyone else, even if it costs us everything. Dae-hyun stood up. Excuse me, Commander. I need to write letters to 17 families. He walked away, leaving Velthora alone with these new thoughts. The commander began to understand why humans carried photographs and personal items, why they built gardens on warships, why they wasted space on comfort and beauty. They were reminding themselves what was worth fighting for, what was worth dying for. Bora approached again. Commander, some of your crew are injured. May I treat them? Our medical staff is handling Quilarian casualties. I know, but I'd like to help anyway, if you'll allow it. Velthora agreed and followed Bora to the medical bay. The human medic moved from bed to bed, treating Quilarian soldiers with the same care she gave her own species. She spoke to each one, asking about pain levels, checking their comfort. One soldier, wounded by shrapnel, looked at Bora with confusion. Why do you care? We are not your people. Bora smiled. You fought beside us. You stayed when you could have run. That makes you my people. The soldier had no response to this. Neither did Velthora. Later, the commander found Hana on the observation deck. She stood looking out at the stars, her reflection showing tear tracks on her face. Lieutenant? Velthora said quietly. Hana turned. She tried to smile but could not maintain it. Commander, I should get back to repairs. Why did you volunteer for this mission? You must have known it was dangerous. Hana looked back at the stars. My parents died when the Vraxians attacked Colony 7. I was 12. A coalition ship rescued me and 40 other children. The captain was Tentari, I think. Never knew his name. But he came back for us when he could have jumped to safety. She wiped her eyes. Someone risked their life for me once. So I do the same for others. It's how we pay it forward. How we make sure kindness doesn't die, even at the cost of your own life. Especially then. A life spent protecting others is a life well spent. Hana turned to face Velthora directly. Commander, may I ask you something? Why did you stay? You could have jumped away with the other coalition ships. Velthora considered the question carefully. I do not know. It was illogical, against protocol. But watching your captain choose to fight, hearing Ensign Taejun speak about his daughter, I understood something. You were not fighting for strategy or territory. You were fighting for people, for the 400 souls on that science vessel. And that mattered to you? It should not have. Quilarians think in terms of efficiency. Individual lives matter less than the collective. But standing on your ship, seeing the photographs and flowers, hearing you talk about family, Velthora's antenna drooped. I felt something I have never felt before. I felt like my choice mattered, like I could choose to be more than just efficient. Hana smiled, genuinely this time. You felt human. Perhaps. Is that what it means? To feel human? Part of it. Being human means caring even when it's hard, fighting even when you're afraid, choosing compassion over cold logic. It's not always the smart choice, but it's the right one. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Velthora thought about everything that had happened, the terror of battle, the confusion of human customs, the strange warmth of the memorial ceremony, the grief and joy mixed together in the cargo bay. Lieutenant Hana, I do not understand your species, but I am beginning to respect them. That's all we ask, Commander, respect, and maybe a chance to show you that different doesn't mean wrong. A communication alert interrupted them. It was Coalition Command. They had reviewed the battle records. They wanted a full report, and they were shocked by what the data showed. 5 ships against 20. 4 ships survived. 15 enemy vessels destroyed or disabled. 400 civilians saved. It should have been impossible, but humans did not believe in impossible. Over the next day, as the damaged ships made their slow way to Coalition space, Velthora spent time with the human crews, learning their customs, hearing their stories, understanding their motivations. The journey to Coalition space took 3 days. 3 days of slow travel in damaged ships. 3 days of repairs and recovery. 3 days that changed Velthora's understanding of everything. The commander spent hours reviewing the battle footage, watching from every angle, trying to understand how the humans fought so effectively. It was not just skill or courage. It was something deeper, something in how they thought about combat. Quilarians fought to win. Humans fought to protect. The difference seemed small, but meant everything. On the second day, Velthora found Daehyun working alone in a maintenance corridor. The captain was repairing damaged circuits with careful hands. He looked exhausted. He probably had not slept since the battle. "Captain, you should rest. Let your crew handle repairs." "Can't sleep," Daehyun said without looking up. "Keep seeing their faces. Everyone we lost. Wondering if I made the right calls. You saved 400 lives, and lost 17 of my own. That's not a win, Commander. That's a trade. And I'm not sure it was worth it." Velthora sat down beside him. "The people on that science vessel are alive because of your choices. Children are alive. Scientists who will do important work are alive. How is that not worth it?" Daehyun finally stopped working and looked at Velthora. "Because I knew Taejun. I knew his laugh, his terrible jokes, his dreams. I knew he wanted to retire and teach his daughter to fly. Now she'll grow up without a father. How do I tell her that trade was worth it? You cannot measure the value of lives by knowing them," Velthora said slowly, working through the logic. "Taejun's death saved hundreds, including 47 children. Those children will grow up. They will have families. They will contribute to the galaxy. His one life created countless others. I know that mathematically, but I also know he was a person, not a number, and every time I close my eyes, I see him smiling before he crashed his ship." Daehyun's hand shook slightly. "You asked me once how we face death so calmly. The truth is we don't. We're terrified every time, but we face it anyway because the alternative is worse." "What alternative?" "Letting others die when we could have saved them. Living with that knowledge. That's worse than death." Velthora considered this. Quilarians did not think this way. They calculated odds and made logical choices. Individual feelings did not enter into tactics. But watching Daehyun struggle with his grief, the commander understood something important. Humans carried the weight of every choice, every death, every sacrifice. They felt it all deeply and personally, and they still chose to fight. That was not weakness. That was strength beyond anything Quilarians understood. "Captain, your species is not what I expected." Daehyun managed a small smile. "Good things, I hope?" "Confusing things. Humans should not be such effective warriors. You are emotional. You form attachments. You mourn your losses deeply. By all logic, these traits should make you weak in combat. But they don't. No. They make you terrifying. Because you fight with purpose beyond strategy. You fight for specific people, specific faces, specific dreams. That gives you focus that logical calculation cannot match. Daehyun looked at Velthora with something like understanding in his eyes. You're starting to get it. We're not fighting ships or territory. We're fighting for every person we've ever loved. Every stranger who deserves a chance. Every child who should grow up safe. That's what makes us human. Later, Velthora called a meeting of the Quilarian crew. They gathered in a conference room, antennae all aligned in perfect attention. The commander looked at them and saw what had always been there. Efficiency, unity, strength, but also something missing. I want to share observations about humans, Velthora began. We have always believed emotional attachment weakens military effectiveness. We filter our feelings through the hive mind. We think of ourselves as parts of a greater whole, rather than individuals. The crew listened without moving. This was standard Quilarian philosophy. Nothing surprising. But humans are different. They feel everything intensely. They form deep bonds. They carry photographs of loved ones and grow flowers on warships. We thought this was weakness. We were wrong. Now antenna twitched with interest. This was not standard thinking. Their attachments make them stronger. When they fight for specific people. They know exactly what they are protecting. This gives them courage that comes from purpose, not programming. One officer spoke up. But Commander, individual thinking causes chaos. It reduces coordination. The hive mind gives us perfect unity. Does it? Or does it make us all think the same way? Follow the same patterns? When we faced the Vraxians, I followed standard doctrine. Retreat when outnumbered 4-1, logical and correct. But the humans chose differently. They chose to stand. And because they did, 400 people are alive. The crew was silent, processing this. I am not saying we should abandon the hive mind. It gives us advantages. But perhaps we should learn from humans. Perhaps we should allow ourselves to feel more deeply. To care about individuals and not just the collective. To fight for reasons beyond efficiency. This was radical thinking for Quilarians. Some crew members looked uncomfortable. Others looked intrigued, all looked confused. I want each of you to talk with the humans on this ship. Learn their stories. Understand why they fight. And then ask yourself, what are you fighting for? Not the hive, not duty, you. What matters to you individually? The meeting ended in uncomfortable silence. Velthora had given them an assignment that Quilarians rarely considered. Think for yourself. Feel for yourself. Choose for yourself. That evening, the commander watched as Quilarian crew members awkwardly approached humans. They asked questions. They listened to stories. Some humans showed photographs. Others shared food. Slowly, carefully, two different species began to truly communicate. Bora found Velthora on the observation deck. She carried 2 cups of something hot and offered one. Tea. Earth drink. Thought you might want to try it. Velthora accepted the cup. The liquid was bitter, but interesting. Thank you. Your people are being very patient with my crew. They're asking good questions, real questions, about why we do what we do. That takes courage. Courage? Questioning everything you've been taught? Allowing yourself to feel differently? That's scary, but necessary for growth. They stood together, drinking tea and watching stars pass by. Bora, when you treat wounded enemies, why? They would kill you if they could, because they're still people, still someone's son or daughter, still someone who might have a family waiting. When I became a medic, I swore to heal, not to judge who deserves healing. Even those who cause harm, especially them. Maybe if we show kindness to enemies, someday there will be no more enemies. Maybe it's naive, but I have to believe healing is always the right choice. Velthora thought about this. Quilarians had enemy species they had fought for centuries. They never considered showing kindness to them. Enemies were obstacles to remove efficiently. Your way is harder, Velthora said. Yes, but the easy way isn't always the right way. On the 3rd day, Coalition space appeared on long-range sensors. They would dock at a repair station by evening. The mission was nearly over, but Velthora received a priority message that changed everything. It was from Coalition Command. Urgent. Emergency level. The commander read it and felt that now familiar sensation. Terror. All crew, this is Commander Velthora. Report to stations immediately. We have a new situation. Within minutes, everyone gathered in the main bay. Humans and Quilarians mixed together now, having worked side by side during the repairs. Coalition Command has detected a Vraxian revenge fleet. They are moving toward Medical Station Refuge 4. The station cannot be evacuated in time. It holds 2,000 patients and medical staff. Horrified silence filled the room. Coalition forces are scattered and cannot reach the station for 3 hours. Command is asking for any available ships to delay the enemy until reinforcements arrive. Hana spoke up. How many ships? 50 Vraxian vessels. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. How many coalition ships are available? 8, including ours. The math was clear, 50 against 8, and their ships were already damaged. This would be suicide. This would be certain death. No amount of clever tactics could overcome such odds. Velthora looked at the gathered crews, saw fear in their faces, saw understanding. They all knew what these numbers meant. Command is not ordering anyone to respond. They are asking for volunteers. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence stretched. Then Captain Daehyun stepped forward. My ship is barely functional, but we'll go. Those 2,000 people need 3 hours. We'll give them 3 hours. Hana stepped forward too. My ship is with you. Bora raised her hand. And mine. They looked at Velthora, waiting. The commander had a choice. Follow orders from Quilarian Command, which would be to preserve forces and retreat, or follow this new understanding. This human way of fighting for others regardless of cost. Velthora thought about the flower growing on Daehyun's ship, about Taijun's daughter, about 400 people saved, about photographs and dreams and tea shared on an observation deck. The commander thought about what it meant to matter, to choose, to care. All Quilarian crew, Velthora said slowly. I am not ordering you to fight. I am asking. Not for the hive, not for duty. I am asking you personally. Will you stand with me? 8 ships arrived at Medical Station Refuge 4 with barely minutes to spare. The station was massive, designed to hold thousands of patients from all coalition species. Through the windows, Velthora could see beings in hospital beds, medical staff moving frantically to help those who could be moved. But most patients were too sick or injured to evacuate. 2,000 souls, helpless, waiting. Enemy fleet detected, Hana announced. 53 vessels. They'll be in firing range in 15 minutes. Velthora looked at the tactical display. The numbers were even worse than before. Their 8 ships were all damaged from the previous battle. Against a fresh enemy fleet more than 6 times their size, they had no chance. But that was not the point. The point was to buy time. 3 hours. Just 3 hours until reinforcements arrived. All ships, defensive formation, Velthora ordered. We form a line between the station and the enemy. Do not let any ship through. The 8 vessels spread out. Velthora's Quilarian destroyer took the center. Daehyun's ship on the left. Hana's on the right. The other 5 coalition ships filled the gaps. Together they created a wall of metal and energy shields, a wall of determination. Captain Daehyun, Velthora said over the command channel. I never asked. Why is your species called humans? What does the word mean? There was a pause. Then Daehyun's tired voice came back. It comes from an old word, humanus. It means compassionate, civilized, cultured. Our ancestors chose it to remind us what we should be, not what we were. And what were you? Monsters, killers, destroyers, but we changed. We chose to be better. That's what being human really means, Commander. Choosing to be better than your nature demands. Velthora understood. Then today we are all human. Yes, today we are. The Vraxian fleet arrived like a storm. 53 warships, weapons charged, shields strong. They saw the 8 defenders and transmitted a message. Mocking laughter. They expected the coalition ships to run. They expected smart commanders to recognize impossible odds and retreat to save their vessels. They expected logic and self-preservation. They did not expect humans, and they did not expect what humans had taught others. All ships, Velthora said. Humanity taught me something. When you fight for others, when you fight for people you can name and faces you can see, you find strength beyond logic. Today we fight for 2,000 people who trust us. We fight for patients too sick to run, for doctors who stayed to help them, for children in hospital beds. The commander paused, letting the words settle. We fight for every single one of them, and we do not retreat. Not one step, not 1 meter. We hold this line or we die trying. Understood, Daehyun said. For every face, Hana added. For every life, Bora's voice came through. One by one, the other ship captains acknowledged. A Tentari commander, a Zephian pilot, a Mordelian captain, all different species, all united in this one purpose. The Vraxian fleet opened fire. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles streaked forward in deadly swarms. The battle began with overwhelming force against the thin defensive line. But the defenders did not break. They did not run. They fought with everything they had. Velthora's ship moved in patterns the commander had learned from humans. Aggressive maneuvers, unexpected tactics. When shields started failing, Velthora ordered all power to weapons. If they were going to die, they would hurt the enemy first. The Quillarian crew fought with fierce determination. No longer just following hive programming, fighting with personal will, fighting because they chose to matter. Daehyun's barely functional ship became a fortress. He positioned himself at the most vulnerable point in the line and refused to move. Enemy fire pounded his shields until they collapsed, then pounded his armor until it cracked. But he did not move. He kept firing, kept fighting. Hana's ship danced through the enemy formation like a ghost. She targeted weapon systems, trying to disable rather than destroy. Every enemy gun she silenced was one less threat to the station. Her tactics were precise, elegant, devastating. Bora transmitted constant updates on which ships had wounded, which ships needed support, which ships were critical. She coordinated the defense like a conductor leading an orchestra. Everyone knew where they were needed most. The first 20 minutes were chaos. Ships exploded. Debris filled space. 2 coalition vessels were destroyed in quick succession, a Zephian cruiser and a Tentari destroyer. Their crews gave their lives to stop enemy vessels from breaking through the line. 6 ships left. Against 51. Station reports first evacuation shuttle away, a voice announced. 200 patients aboard, 200 saved. 1,800 to go. Velthora's ship took a direct hit that penetrated the armor. Explosions ripped through 3 decks. 15 crew members died instantly. The commander felt their loss like physical pain. These were not just hive members now. They were individuals. People with thoughts and dreams. Hull breach on multiple decks. The tactical officer shouted. We're losing atmosphere. Seal the breaches. Reroute power to weapons. We keep fighting. Another coalition ship died. A Mordelian destroyer, shields overwhelmed, ship torn apart. Its captain transmitted final words. Tell my family I fought for something that mattered. 5 ships against 51. 40 minutes passed. The defenders' weapons were failing. Their shields were gone. They were holding the line through determination alone, but they were holding. Second evacuation shuttle away, the station reported. 300 more patients evacuated. 500 saved. 1,500 to go. Daehyun's ship was dying. Velthora could see it on sensors. Atmosphere venting. Engines sputtering. Weapons at minimal power, but he was still there, still fighting. Captain, your ship is critical. You must retreat. Negative, Commander. Still have weapons. Still have fight. Where had Velthora heard those words before? Then remembered. Taijun. Just before he sacrificed himself. The humans always said the same thing. Still have fight. How could they keep fighting when everything seemed lost? What gave them such strength? Then Velthora understood. It was not about the fighting. It was about the why. Every minute they held meant more patients evacuated. Every second meant another life saved. They could see the faces being saved. That made all the difference. An hour passed. Then 2. The defenders were beyond exhausted. Beyond damaged. They were flying wrecks held together by will alone. 3 ships left. Velthora's destroyer. Daehyun's cruiser. Hana's frigate. The other 5 had sacrificed themselves to stop enemy breakthroughs. The Vraxian fleet was also damaged. They had lost 18 ships, but 33 remained, more than 10 times the defenders. Station reports final evacuation shuttle loading, came the announcement. 1,900 patients evacuated. 100 still loading, so close. Just a few more minutes, but Velthora's ship had nothing left. Weapons were offline. Engines were dead. Life support was failing. The crew sat in the dark watching enemy ships move to final attack positions. All crew prepare for impact, Velthora said quietly. It has been an honor to serve with you. You chose to matter. That is everything. Then Daehyun's voice came through. Commander, I'm going to do something stupid. Tell my sister I love her. Tell her I planted flowers because she taught me to see beauty. Captain, no. But Daehyun's ship was already moving, using its last power to accelerate directly toward the largest cluster of enemy vessels. His ship was barely functional but still massive, and moving at full speed. All crew evacuate, Daehyun ordered his people. Evacuation pods launching. Commander Velthora, pick up my crew. Captain, you cannot. I can, and I will. Someone has to buy those last minutes. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. Tell the medical staff we held the line. Tell them every one of those 2,000 people matters. Tell them being human means choosing to be better. His ship crashed into the Vraxian formation at full speed. The explosion was massive. 1 ship destroyed instantly, 3 more heavily damaged. A gap opened in the enemy line. Hana's ship dove through the gap, firing everything. For Daehyun! She screamed. For Taejun. For everyone who stood. Velthora felt something break inside. Something that had always been controlled and filtered by the hive mind. Pure emotion, pure grief, pure rage. The commander had lost friends. Had lost a teacher. Had lost someone who showed what it meant to truly care. All weapons to manual control, Velthora ordered. We end this. The Quilarian crew responded with fierce agreement. They were not fighting as a hive anymore. They were fighting as individuals who chose to stand together. Velthora's ship and Hana's ship fought with desperate fury. They were dying, but they fought. They were overwhelmed, but they fought. Because 100 people still needed time. Final shuttle away, the station announced. All patients evacuated. 2,000 souls saved. Those words hit Velthora like physical force. 2,000. All of them. Every single one. They had done it. All ships, coalition reinforcements arriving. A new voice came through. Fresh ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 20 coalition vessels, weapons charged, shields strong. The Vraxian fleet, already damaged and demoralized, broke and ran. They jumped away in disorder. The battle was over. They had won. 2,000 people were alive because 8 ships stood against 50, because crews chose to fight for others. But the cost was terrible.